Welcome to Smash Fiction, a podcast where we pit fictional characters against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or being such a good puppers. Who's a good puppers? Who's a good puppers? You are. And who is just a cutest little kitty? Yes, it's you. It's you, and I'll cut a bitch that says otherwise. Yes. And see who would win.
That's exactly how I feel about my dog.
We all understand that feeling. This week, the pets from Homeward Bound versus Milo and Otis. What do you mean you lost them?
It weren't our fault, Cruella. We had them all locked up all nice and secure like.
Well, clearly not well enough. How do you lose 5 animals? Would you have me believe they orchestrated an escape?
You'd think they did if Horace is to be believed. Tell her what you told me, Horace. Well, I was heading in to feed the retriever, the bulldog, and the fluffy cat. So I come round the corner and I see the cat opening the door. I'm thinking they're about to escape, so I'll run in there to make sure the dogs are still tied up. And it turns out the room's already empty. Next thing I know, the door's closing and locking behind me.
You idiot! If you're telling me you're dumber than those animals, I should turn you into a coat instead. And you, Jasper, you only had 2 animals to watch. What do you have to say for yourself?
When I went in to feed the little pug and orange tabby cat, the cat had gotten himself into the old dresser. I tried to get him out, but my hand got stuck. And then he and the pug made a run for it.
They're probably heading back to the farmhouse now while you chuckle fucks are wasting precious air. The family of those 3 walking coats are at the bed and breakfast there. If any of those animals make it back, all of our time and my money spent kidnapping them will have been for nothing.
They won't get that far, miss. That farmhouse is 100 miles from here. 100 miles of treacherous terrain, unpredictable weather. Don't forget about the wild animals.
If the wild animals get them, those coats are as good as gone, idiot! Stop wasting my time and bring me those animals, even if it means only catching one group. Whichever you fails, I'll be reporting to the police. Looks like those Cockney boys have gotten themselves into a bit of a pickle. But more importantly, which team of furry friends has the perspicacity, athleticism, willpower, and skill necessary to brave the wildlife and wilderness of rain-prone English countryside, all while avoiding capture by these desperate dumpuses? I don't know. I was too busy writing my script for Homeward Bound 3, Tokyo Sniffed. That is why I, Kit, obviously I was going to be the judge for this match, Karen, am your obvious judge this week.
Oh my god, I think it might be our shortest opening scenario ever. I'm so proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Representing Team Homeward Bound are Claire Mulcairn.
The combined powers of Michael J. Fox, Sally Fields, and Donna Mecchi rule. An hour and a half of non-stop Dudley Moore drools.
I mean, counselor, I concede the point.
And beloved returning guest host Brad Boltman.
Oh, sounds like that's 2 woofs and 3 yips. So that's no animals were harmed during the making of these arguments. Oh, sorry, that was a yap. But except Team Milo and Otis.
Representing Team Milo and Otis are Dan Mulcairn.
Gonna kick some homeward ass today. Gonna bring some grade A sass today. The other team will crack like glass today. Gonna kick some homeward ass today.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You guys should have seen the dance I was just doing. It was great.
And Miles Schneiderman.
Guys, we're gonna learn an important lesson today. The pets from Homeward Bound and winning this match don't mix. And if they do, I'm gonna throw up.
In order to determine which team goes first, I made both teams dress up like the cats from their respective movies and forced them to go down a waterfall. Team Homeward Bound did a great job of staying true to Sassy's very fluffy coat and wound up using a lot of faux fur in their costumes. Unfortunately, this really weighed them down in the water and they almost drowned. Thankfully, they were saved by a kindly woodland hermit who lovingly dried them off and kept offering them milk long after they insisted they weren't actually cats.
He was so nice.
After Claire and Brad felt better, they made a break for it because that was kind of creepy, and the hermit was never brought back for another scene or even referenced ever again.
Are you implying that the craft of Homeward Bound is less than perfect?
Team Milo and Otis dressed up in orange tabby feety pajamas, jumped into a box, and rode it all the way down a waterfall. Dan barely made it alive, and Miles straight up died. Or at least he would have if he hadn't already been turned into a zombie in Hot Fuzz versus Rush Hour.
No continuity holes on Smash Fiction.
Wait. Wasn't Miles also revealed to be a robot in Deckard versus Kusanagi? This show's series Bible, y'all. It's getting weird.
He's a robot zombie. I think that's very clear. He's a robot zombie in furry cat footy pajamas.
You know what? You can't beat a robot zombie wearing cat feety pajamas in a waterfall survival contest. Everyone knows that. So, Team Milo and Otis automatically win and will be going first this week.
All right.
My origin story episode is going to be really epic, you guys.
Don't think that just because your film was originally Japanese, that gives you an advantage here. Unless you use the two main characters' original names, Shatran and Pusuke. You will get an extra point every time you say Pusuke, because that is just the best name for a dog I've ever heard. Take it away, Team Pusuke.
Pusuke today. Gonna Pusuke today.
It's true that both of these groups undertake some geographically significant treks in their respective stories, but don't fool yourself into thinking that their accomplishments are equal. In the two Homeward Bound films, the pets deal with exceptionally pleasant circumstances. They have a long walk, yes, but their journey seems to take place in the summer and early autumn. The worst bit of weather they encounter is a brief moment of rain in the second movie. The rest of the time, the sky is clear and bright, the trees and grass are green and lush. It's downright idyllic. Milo and Otis, though, have to go through some shit. These guys deal with ocean waves, rainstorms, and snowstorms. Otis pushes his way through a freaking blizzard on sheer willpower. They spend months of winter desolation not just surviving, but helping to raise multiple newborn puppies and kittens. Do you know how amazingly good you have to be at foraging and hunting to scrounge up enough food for an entire litter and their mother and yourself every single day when everything around you is covered in snow and ice for the entire winter season? Better than the pets from Homeward freaking Bound, that's for sure. Especially with the way that Chance and Shadow try to hunt multiple times through the first movie and don't once succeed. There's a lot of strange parallels with the types of danger that these two groups of animals run into, but it becomes clear that there is a vast difference in the two groups' skill levels when it comes to dealing with these same threats. When Shadow gets stuck at the bottom of a muddy slope, none of them are able to come up with a good way of getting him up, and Shadow immediately gives up even trying. When Milo falls into a deep pit with perfectly sheer unclimbable walls, Otis uses a rope to pull him back up. Sassy gets swept down a river and would have died if the movie hadn't decided to introduce a human character whose sole purpose in the narrative was to nurse Sassy back to health so that she could rejoin the story. Milo gets swept down a river multiple times and is able to swim, remain conscious, and even briefly hold off a bear. Speaking of bears, Chance decides to pick a fight with a couple of bears, then he and his friends are forced to run off when a much larger bear shows up. Milo and Otis both wisely recognize the threat that bears present to them and prioritize evading or hiding from them whenever possible. But when that option isn't available, they freaking step up. Otis fights and then outsmarts a bear early in the film. Later, Milo is menaced by another bear and moves to a thin branch that the bear struggles to fit on, and then he knocks the bear off with a paw swipe. And then Milo encounters another bear, is cornered by the bear in the bear's home turf, and Milo outsmarts it, evading it in an old dresser, and then dropping a heavy object on the bear's head. The bear, understandably, decides to run off. And here's something else you might have missed. Throughout Homeward Bound, the only non-dog animal that the pets ever speak to is Sassy. They encounter a great many other animals, particularly in the first movie, and there are numerous times when Chance even tries to speak to them, like he does with the bears and the porcupine, but they never respond back to or seem to understand what he's saying. In contrast, Milo and Otis talk to a ton of the animals that they meet. Deer, owls, foxes, turtles, ravens, pigs, raccoons, to say nothing of the dozens of animals back at their farm. And any animal they speak to immediately becomes a helpful friend, guiding them on their journey. My best guess is that domesticated animals have a different language from wild animals, meaning that any of the animals that Milo and Otis encounter will be able to help them, providing knowledge, food, shelter, physical aid, or any number of other resources, while the same animals will ignore, run from, or be outright hostile to the pets from the big city. Look at this from Horace and Jasper's perspective. Cruella has tasked them with finding and bringing back her lost wardrobe accessories. On the one hand, you have a very tiny puppy and kitten. On the other hand, you have 2 large dogs and an extremely fluffy cat. Which one do you think they will be more inclined to pursue more, shall we say, doggedly? Which do you think they'll prioritize bringing back? And which do you think are going to end up being much easier to catch in the end? The only home these pets are bound for is Cruella's coat closet.
Milo and Otis were born on a farm, somewhere in the middle of a vast wilderness, surrounded by, among other things, ominously annoyed ducks and cute little bunny rabbits that view the arrival of new life as just cause for secret declarations of vengeance. With no evidence of human activity in sight, they are essentially wild animals, a fact that explains a lot about how they are able to survive and even thrive under the most rugged of natural conditions. The Homeward Bound pets, on the other hand, are just that. As confirmed numerous times in Homeward Bound 2, so much so that it's one of the primary themes of the film, the fuzzy adopted grandchildren of Ted from Airplane and Jill from Brazil are indeed pets, unaccustomed to any other kind of life and incapable of surviving very long on their own. Shadow is old and tired. The only thing we ever see him doing when not trying to get home is lying down. Sassy has been known to turn down food because it wasn't warmed up, and literally almost died because she refused to swim, while Chance is the dog equivalent of a juvenile delinquent who goes around telling his friends he almost killed somebody once because he thinks it makes him sound tough and cool. He's Dermot from the Venture Brothers, basically. Dude, I would totally beat you up right now if the government hadn't made me register my paws as lethal weapons. It takes all three of them working together and a ton of help for these chuckle fucks to survive what was, at best, an implausible journey. Milo and Otis are not old, they're not pampered, and they're not posers. They are survivors who never go down and never quit, even though they are alone for most of their time in the wilderness. Between them, they cover twice the distance covered by the Homeward Bound crew, with a third of the resources and much more limited assistance. Cruella knows how to capture pets, even journeyman pets, but adventurers are another story. Hey, here's a sentence I didn't expect to be saying tonight, but damned if this isn't where we are. Milo and Otis solve problems primarily through inventiveness, competence, and tactical brilliance? At one point, Milo is hungry and sees a fox. Figuring it's about time for the fox to be hungry too, he stealthily tracks it back to the place where it has hidden a dead muskrat. Now at this point, Milo is trying to be stealthy, but appears to trip up, making a small noise and causing the fox to look around and ask if anyone is there. Seems like a mistake on Milo's part. Except for the fact that the fox gets spooked, buries the muskrat again instead of eating it, and departs, leaving Milo free to dig it up and eat it himself. Time and time again throughout the film, one of the two is demonstrating this kind of ingenuity. The one I remembered best from when I was a kid was Otis getting Milo out of a pit by throwing him a damn rope, but the actual most impressive example is Milo learning how to fish using his tail, Milo and Joyce somehow contriving to invent a rack-type device with which to hang the fish they catch at their house, and Otis crafting a sling of some kind to drag the fish Milo gives him back to his family. This is objective proof of self-sufficiency through tool use. And all the while, the Homeward Bound pets are doing what exactly? Well, let's see, they can clearly understand at least some of the words that humans say, but they're too dumb to understand that they're not being abandoned, despite being reassured by their humans that they will be back. Their adventures begin as a direct result of the pets themselves being impatient or paranoid. The first Homeward Bound would never have happened if they had been able to stay in the same place for 2 weeks, and if they had just hung around the shelter a couple more hours, it would only have been a 45-minute movie. Homeward Bound 2 is only a thing because Chance freaks out about plane travel. I sympathize, my dude, but sometimes you just gotta get on the plane. And it goes for another hour and a half only because the three of them together literally can't find the Golden Gate Bridge. That's not an incredible journey, that's crippling trust issues combined with simple stupidity. And again, they can't really do anything. I get that Shadow is, super determined and likes to boast about his sixth sense, but you know the whole thing about home is just over that hill is a joke, right? The epitome of black humor when they crest the hill and see the wilderness stretching out before them. He doesn't know where to go, he just makes shit up as he goes along, as opposed to Milo who's like, hey look, it's the river I went down, let's follow it back. Sassy is great at picking locks, which I guess might come in handy when you get caught, but if that's what you're relying on, you better hope you get caught soon because she is not cut out for the wild. Milo and Otis have definitely proven that they are, and as for Chance, well, his will to live is sapped entirely by porcupine quills, yet he also thinks the person removing the quills is torturing him. He can't even dig under a fence without getting stuck for a dramatically appropriate length of time. He's the only dog we ever see actually getting caught by the dog catchers in Homeward Bound 2, and he nearly gets run over when he decides to stop and look back while standing in the middle of a road. Homeward Bound is the story of how 3 soft-ass pets miraculously survived their own foolishness. Milo and Otis is the story of how a pair of hotshot young aces went out into the deep dark forest and became men, complete with near-death experiences, getting laid, and even a fucking vision quest. That's why they're the heroes of tonight's narrative, while the Homeward Bound pets are just the victims.
Wow. That opener had all the brutality of a real cat going down a real waterfall. Team Homeward Bound, I know you're going to want to have well-timed cutaways so no one actually gets hurt, but you might have to go all out to beat that Tavian pug. Go get him!
This is Shadow. He traveled 350 miles and fought a cougar to be with his human. Even though he fell in a hole, he still came out with a glorious Garnier Fructis mane. 14 out of 10 would play fetch. Shadow is the designated Obi-Wan Kenobi of the group. He's the level-headed leader that keeps the group moving in the same direction, both metaphorically and literally. Chance and Sassy both trust him enough that they will agree to go along with whatever plan he settles on, no matter how audacious it seems at first. You know, like walking 350 miles through the Sierra Nevada mountains? And after making that arduous journey, when he falls into a slick, muddy pit and breaks his leg, this isn't enough to stop him. He pulls himself out of the mud. He climbs out of the pit on 3 legs and limps the last few miles home. Because he's a good boy. Shadow is brave enough and skilled enough to charge into a burning house to save a child that both the fire department and the kid's parents thought was past saving. Like, seriously, the would-be burn victim's dad has the same reaction to his child's safe return as if he unexpectedly found out his favorite TV show was renewed for season 2. He's like, oh, sweet, I thought that my kid died and I kind of liked him. That would have sucked. What the fuck, Dad? So, Shadow shows incredible courage and empathy, but when people threaten his family, Shadow protect, but he also attack. He barks and growls at animal handlers to help the team escape the ranger station, and at one point he holds one of the rangers down in order to give Chance time to escape. You know how earlier I said he was the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the group? That isn't just because he's an experienced badass, it's because he actually has ESP. He has the ability to sense where his humans are at all times, and he can act as the infallible floating objective arrow that transforms a potentially challenging video game into a trivial affair. And remember, in this scenario, the bed and breakfast that these animals are traveling to is the one in which the Seavers are staying. So the powers will be very much active and very useful throughout the challenge. Milo and Otis, on the other hand, have neither supernatural nor even a normal sense of focus or direction and have a tendency to, much like the plot of the movie they are from, wander around without much forward momentum.
This is Chance. He steals clothes, he steals food, and he'll steal your heart. Will definitely tackle hug you without warning. 12 out of 10 would let him eat my donuts.
Aww.
While Shadow may have experience and wisdom, Chance's athleticism, his endless reserves of energy, and his daring daredevil spirit make him a powerful, blunt instrument. Also, Chance grew up as a stray, and so he has plenty of experience escaping from capture and stealing things. Like when he steals a baseball glove and an entire baseball team goes chasing after him, or when he steals a frisbee from a group of muscular adult men, and again, none of them catch him. But of course, Chance's favorite thing to steal is food. He even steals a full wedding cake at one point, so if Shadow's hunting skills aren't filling their bellies, I'm sure Chance's scavenging skills will. And speaking of food, you want to talk about a hot dog? Because another one of Chance's talents is that he is confirmed dog sexy. Both Delilah and Sledge.
That's it. Milo and Otis win.
both Delilah and Sledge comment multiple times about how Chance is like really fucking hot and how nice his butt is. Why am I bringing this up, you ask? Because the world... Why? Because the world of 101 Dalmatians has the Twilight Bark, an entire network of do-gooder dogs, both strays and pets alike, that exist to protect lost animals and bring them home. If any pet here is going to make friends with the other strays and get in good with the Twilight Bark, it's going to be Chance. He makes friends quickly in Homeward Bound 2, and things will be no different here. Everybody's going to be chasing that tail and that butt. But Chance isn't just a pretty face and a nice butt. He also has a talent for, and stay with me here, it's very specific, taunting foes and then leading them into physics-based traps. At one point, he tricks 2 junkyard dogs into chasing him into this pipe thing, and then when they're inside it, he pushes the pipe down a hill. And then also there's a bit where Chance and Shadow, working together, taunts a motherfucking mountain lion who has been hunting them and chasing them across a stone beam, and then Chance drops down onto the opposite side of the beam and catapults the mountain lion off a cliff and into a nearby river. I don't know what kind of wildlife we're going to be encountering out here in the English countryside, but I'm pretty sure none of it's going to beat a fucking mountain lion.
This is Sassy. Being Himalayan, she's no stranger to mountain life. Acts too good for your food, but gets it anyway. Not a dog. We only rate dogs. 12 out of 10. But sometimes a sledgehammer, like Chance, is not the right tool for the job. Sometimes you need a delicate tool, like a lockpick, and that's when you need a sassy cat. She can sneak, she can climb up trees and drain pipes, she can lead animal control agents on the Scooby-Doo style hallway chase where they try and fail repeatedly to catch her. Also, perhaps most impressively, she can open any type of closed door with ease, including opening a theoretically pet-proof pet carrier with one paw from the inside. Should the crew get into some sort of fight, Sassy's intelligence helps her to find ways to defeat larger and stronger foes indirectly, like when she drops a potted plant onto the head of a stray dog that was menacing her canine companions. And when she has a team to work with and a moment to plan, she can come up with some truly great schemes, like the heist she puts together to save Chance from the dog catcher's truck at the end of Homeward Bound 2. Sassy also shows that she's a truly skilled puppeteer of human emotions. For her, begging isn't necessary, and the best way to get food is to wait near a human with food and act as though you don't want it, and they will, of course, give it to you. Humans are a cakewalk, but Sassy also excels when it comes to getting food in the wild. We see multiple times throughout the film, she can just walk over to a river, dip in her paw, and pull out a fish instantly and repeatedly, 100% of the time. Sassy has an easier time of catching fish than I do of plugging in a USB drive. At one point, the three pets are sitting around in a circle, and each of them has a giant pile of fish carcasses in front of them that she has caught. The only way they're going to run out of food on this journey is if Sassy accidentally makes all the fish in the rivers of England go extinct.
Or dies. Also, if she dies. Sorry.
I'm sorry, did somebody hear something? I thought I heard something weird on the mic.
That was a cough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now we move on to the opposition's team in order of billing. Milo is sort of like Sassy, but younger, smaller, and pretty much worse at everything. Like, remember Sassy's fishing skills? Like, an entire reel of this movie is dedicated to Milo trying to catch one fish. And in the end, he doesn't even get the fish. Then, still hungry, he tries to steal some eggs from some seagulls and ends up falling into the ocean and almost dying. Also, in terms of worldliness, we don't ever see Milo interacting directly with humans. He's born on a farm, so presumably there are some humans somewhere. But when he comes across human ephemera, he seems to have no idea what it is. Like, he finds some train tracks, and boy, does this boy not know what trains is. It may not have come up a lot in his movie, but knowing things about humans is certainly going to matter in this scenario. How are you going to avoid Cruella de Vil's car if you don't even know what cars is? But Milo's biggest weakness is definitely his complete lack of giving a shit about his quest and his complete lack of loyalty towards Otis. At the first sight of a lady cat, Milo totally starts ignoring Otis in favor of her until the two part ways. So much for having each other's back. And this is not a temporary thing so that Milo can, like, go on a date. This is a permanent parting of ways. Milo and Otis are still very much not out of the metaphorical or literal woods, and this is not a good tactical decision. They need each other if they want to get home because they both suck so very, very much. But neither one of them is smart enough to realize this.
Last, and certainly least, we have Otis. What can be said about Otis? Well, first of all, he's a pug, one of the many modern breeds of dog that simply should not be. It's not your fault, pugs. It's those shitty human breeders. If Gregor Mendel could see what has become of his work, he would have burned those pea gardens to the ground.
That's a good science reference, McGinn.
Pugs can't breathe properly. They get infections in their wrinkles, they have hip dysplasia, and also, apparently, sometimes one of their eyes just falls out for no reason.
Oh, God, right?
Horace and Jasper might not even have to kill Otis. Natural selection might do it for them. But even if Otis can simply survive the daily troubles of walking and breathing and keeping his eyes inside his head long enough to compete in this scenario, any actual challenge that comes his way is going to be completely beyond his capabilities. The inciting incident of Milo and Otis is that Milo is sitting in a box that starts very slowly drifting down a languid river at a pace that could most charitably be described as leisurely. Otis, here's a very simple challenge for you to overcome. Can you do it? Can you catch up to the box? No. Okay, can you swim fast enough to get to the box? No. Okay. Milo, do you want to help him out? Do you want to get out of the box, maybe swim to shore? No? Milo, you're just going to keep sitting in the box and drifting further and further away? Oh, okay, cool. That works too. And that was the source of all the conflict we see throughout the film. Milo wasn't motivated enough to avoid danger, and Otis wasn't skilled enough to save him. There's a very similar bit in the 101 Dalmatians, where in order to reach Hell Hall, Pongo and Purdy swim across a really fast-moving icy river with visible ice chunks in it. And they gotta dog paddle their asses off to make it across, and it is tense AF. No way is that shrimpy little pug gonna manage that. Heck, one time he was almost killed by hanging out on the beach as the tide was rising. He got stuck on a sandbar one time when the tide came in, and he had to be saved by a Deus Ex turtle. Evolution is sending you a message, Otis. You are not meant to be. Also, in case our opposition tries to talk about that time Otis fought a bear cub, dude, that scene does not actually highlight Otis's bravery. No, only his stupidity. Otis even realizes midway through the fight that what he's doing makes no sense, and he is definitely going to die if he keeps it up, so he runs away. Chance fought 2 bear cubs at once, and they were the ones who ended up running away.
You know.
At the end of the day, the Homeward Bound crew is simply a better put-together machine than Milo and Otis, a well-constructed party with different skills and also ability to work together to become more than the sum of their parts. And the results back this up. They end up traveling from the town of Bishop on the far eastern border of California to San Francisco, a journey of over 350 miles that requires crossing the Sierra Nevada mountains. I don't know how much terrain Milo and Otis supposedly cross, but I'm guessing spending a little time in a box in a slow-moving river is not going to take you as far away from your home as being driven in a car 350 miles away. In fact, Milo and Otis takes place on the Japanese island of Kyushu, which is quite a bit smaller than California, so there's no point on that island where if you tried to travel 350 miles in a straight line, you wouldn't end up in the middle of the ocean. So they couldn't have gone that far. And you know how long it took to get them home? You know what? This is a fun first. It's possible in this case to measure the amount of time it took them to return home, not in days or weeks or even months, but in generations. By the time they found their way back, both of our heroes had reproduced. So the one thing that your side does have going for you is that although our side currently outnumbers yours 3-2, maybe by the time Milo and Otis make it to their destination, their team is going to outnumber us.
Whew. That opener was quite the incredible journey. But now it's time to really raise those hackles and bare your teeth, because it's the rebooties. Team Milo and Otis, send them to the advocate pound.
So one point that you guys made is that Milo and Otis have never seen a car before, which is probably true, but we know that their first instinct upon seeing something strange and large and potentially dangerous is to stay alert, stay low, hide, figure things out before they make a decision and try to go to it. Chance's first instinct is just to run up to a thing and see if it has food, and despite his paranoia about dog catchers and going to the pound, that is exactly how those creepy dudes catch him in the second movie, is with a quarter pounder with cheese. They're the ones who are going to be much more likely to be picked up by Jasper
Chance
and
doesn't
Horace.
have experience evading capture because he got sent to the pound. He got caught.
There are 4 times across the 2 movies where they are captured by humans and then escape.
So they get captured 4 times. Okay.
And then escape, immediately. They can recognize and know, certain humans and know that certain humans are after them. They're going to recognize Jasper and Horace. They are going to have a much better skill at differentiating between specific humans than Milo and Otis are. Milo and Otis are going to go too far the other way. They're going to view all humans as a threat, and they're not going to utilize humans as a resource the way that the other ones can, where they can utilize, helpful humans.
You have no evidence to support that because you have no evidence of how they would interact with humans. To my knowledge, Milo has never interacted with an owl or a deer before either, but he instantly makes friends with it and gets some assistance from it.
Because he can speak to them.
Right.
He's not going to speak to a human. He can't speak to...
You don't know that. You have absolutely no way of knowing that.
Are you suggesting that the animals in Milo and Otis talk to humans?
Can you prove me wrong?
We don't know a lot about it. We know that all of the animals in Milo and Otis speak, and the ones in Homeward Bound, apart from dogs and cats, don't. That's all that we know. It may be dependent on the other animals. It may depend on the setting. It may be wild animals in the world of Homeward Bound don't speak. And
that is my point exactly, Claire, is we don't know, so you can't make claims based on that. You talked about how they were going to not know what a car was and be freaked out. Dude, they're not going to be traveling on the road. They travel through the fucking wilderness. The Homeward Bound pets are the ones who need roads and villages and humans to help them. We are completely self-sufficient.
They can use them. And the other point that we've skipped over here is...
Sassy would have died!
She
was going to die.
That is a completely different waterfall. If Milo went over that waterfall, Milo also would
seriously.
die. Those are not comparable waterfalls. We're arguing in that you don't have human experience because if you get captured... That's it for you guys. You have no experience breaking out. If we get captured, we can still break out.
That's fine. We're not getting captured. And you guys are, because you get captured all the time.
You were talking about how Otis is physically inferior to any of the pets in Homeward Bound, despite the fact that he survives a blizzard through willpower. And you were talking about hip dysplasia, What are the odds that Shadow makes it to the goal without suffering hip dysplasia or just breaking his leg or dying of old age?
He broke his leg. It didn't
stop him last time, yeah.
We actually don't know how long it took him to get out of that hole. It could have been like a month.
It was shorter than it took Milo and Otis to get home. It took them seasons.
At some point, they were smart enough to get out of the elements and get laid, and then get home later.
So, because we don't see the Homeward Bound pets hiding from the elements, because they're traveling through better times, you're assuming they wouldn't hide from the elements? And they would just die because we don't see them hiding from snow? That's ridiculous. They have lived many more years than the pets in Milo and Otis.
Who are in their first year.
Who are probably their first or maybe second year of life. So they've probably seen multiple winters. They know more about snow. They know about these things. They know how to survive.
They're house pets. They don't know how to survive in winter. Again, there's no evidence of this. I want to talk for a minute about Shadow because there are some things that I want to mention, like, for example, his ESP, which is inconsistent at best. At the very end of Homeward Bound 2, their family is driving right down the same road as them, and he doesn't pick them up with this if he has it. Also, the thing about the heroics that he goes into, yeah, guess what? A local dog saving children from burning buildings is gonna get you on the news, buddy. And we know Shadow's gonna stop to help somebody and get attention drawn to himself.
And then he'd be found by his family.
Shadow's extra senses are actually very consistent. He hones in on his family and specifically Peter.
By direction, and not necessarily distance, though.
And also, when the family finds him on the road, he's already headed to the house. So he is headed where the family is.
Pretty much all of the environmental tricks that Chance pulls are largely seesaw-based, because his human was the one who showed him how seesaws work. And that's it. Like, unless there's seesaws scattered over the English countryside, I'm very doubtful that he can pull out anything that impressive.
The sort of terrain that they actually travel through in, like, 101 Dalmatians, there's abandoned buildings, there's all sorts of, like, ephemera of humans. He's just played a lot, and he understands stuff about, like, physics, and that's just a skill that he has, and he can find a way of doing this movie, I'm sure.
Such complete bullshit.
Horace and Jasper have the same intelligence level as the two junkyard dogs.
Yes.
And Chance is able to make them go where he wants them to go by getting them to chase him.
But see, the thing is, he doesn't do anything against those two dog nappers. And I think that's a much closer comparison to the level of skill and intellect that Jasper and Horace are working with. Not the dogs, but the dog catchers.
All right. Hey, leave it. Leave it. Now sit. Good. It's time for Team Homeward Bound to make many angry borks and hisses.
Okay.
Bork away.
I mean, we've talked about this a bit already, but the idea of, like, oh, Milo and Otis get out of the pit with the rope, but Shadow can't get out of the pit. But Shadow does get out of the pit, and he has a broken leg. The only reason it looks less impressive is because of editing, because they do it to be more dramatic. They cut away, and that, like, implies through cinematic language that he doesn't get out. But then we do see him get out, so it's just, like, the way it's edited. But he does get himself out.
He would have been out a lot faster if they used a fucking rope.
Let's look at that scene, though. The hole that Shadow falls into has this muddy slope leading out of it. Like, it's slippery, but it's very climbable. The problem in that scene is not the hole, it's that Shadow hurts his leg and decides to give up. Chance eventually has to go into that hole with Shadow just to plead for him to get up and get out of the hole. When Milo falls into his hole, he doesn't give up or lose hope. Like, Milo and Otis's problems are always external. Right, they're never internal.
Right, but the thing is, a resource that we have that you don't is our ability to talk each other through stuff and to motivate each other, and our ability to stay each other and not turn on each other and not leave each other. Milo and Otis leave each other because they just don't want to hang out anymore. Milo wants to spend time with his cat girlfriend, which is a huge weakness. You can't act like it's not.
The only reason that Sassy goes with the dogs at the beginning of Homeward Bound is because they threaten to leave her to die. You wait for that bus, you'll be fine. There's no bus.
At that point in time, she could go back to the farm. It wasn't very far at that point. They were teasing her because they knew she was going to come along.
You were talking about, like, Sassy's plan to rescue Chance at the end of Homeward Bound 2,
yes.
Which was what? To stand in front of a truck? The only reason they didn't get run over is because the driver had a change of heart, and the only reason they were able to do anything in that movie at all was because they had a whole gang of dogs helping them. They were totally fucked.
Yeah, they made friends, just like you guys say that you do.
The amount of time that these guys are going to spend in towns during this is going to be a lot smaller than the amount of time that they're going to be in the wilderness. Now, I will admit that you guys do seem to have a better grasp on how to appeal to humans and also how to talk to, like, townies, basically. Mm-hmm. But, like, The wilderness is the vast majority of this, and that's where we have a much greater ability to draw on resources. The sources that we draw from are much more common and much broader in this specific circumstance than the sources that you guys draw your help from. If we were trying to get through London, I would give you guys the edge there, but we're not. We're trying to get through the wilderness, which is dotted with occasional towns.
I wanted to talk about how they encounter predators. The bear that they encounter is larger and homeward bound and more aggressive, and the same is true of the mountain lion. The only bear that exists in Milo and Otis is not really going after Milo with any intensity or any plan.
What are you talking about?
He gets very easily deterred.
That's insane! Chance gets taken down by a fearsome predator indeed in the form of a porcupine. Just takes him right out of the fucking fight. The bears that he fights off, that was hilarious. Thank you for that. Basically just wander away because the dude is annoying and then they run from a grizzly. The mountain lion is must be emaciated and in need of food because there's no way that dog's weight landing on that rock shoots that mountain lion off the cliff unless it's literally a paper tiger.
Chance is very dense. He's surprisingly dense.
And finally, this point about the bears not coming after Milo, there's 3 separate bear encounters in this movie at least. There's one terrifying point for me as a viewer where the bear actually gets his claws on Otis for a second, but Otis dodges out of the way and leads the bear away from Milo, and Milo, on 2 separate occasions, tactically defeats bear opponents who can climb trees and are way bigger than him.
Cubs.
You don't know that.
Or at the very least, smaller bears, not
there's
grizzlies.
3 more bears than you guys defeat.
Well, we took out 2 by barking at them.
You didn't take anybody out.
They ran away to get Mama.
That's a check in the W column.
Oh my god. Right, so you get the experience points because you got past them?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you count up a win by default as a win? Because I'm not sure that
if you bark at your enemy and they run away, you don't have to punch them.
Did you ever punch a bear out? Do we see Milo punch a bear?
Milo swipes the bear off the tree.
That's an uncoordinated bear, not a strong kitten.
That's a stronger win than barking at one.
Seriously.
Okay.
Chance wasn't fighting the porcupine.
I mean, no, you're right. He was trying to be friends with it, and it stabbed him in the face because he's the worst.
Aww.
Don't blame victims. It was the porcupine was a dick.
I'm glad you admitted that your team is victims. That's what I said in my opening.
Am I gonna have to break out the muzzles? Right? Christ on a kibble. I just want to take a moment to reassure our audience that despite the sounds made during rebooties, no advocates were harmed in the making of this match. Yet. Yeah. Everyone's about to go running under the bed in fear because it's the lightning round. So sorry, guys. I know that thunder is one of Pet's least favorite things. Oh, no, wait. Does that mean that all of our animal listeners hate the lightning round? Do they not like our show?
Animal listeners, write us in. Tell us what you think.
Tweet us some borks.
Now I'm picturing a cat on a keyboard.
Aww. Me too. Okay. Both groups of well-traveled pets find themselves on a massive cliff overlooking the farmland that will mean their safety. Beside them, roaring, is an especially wide, turbulent waterfall that spills over the cliff and continues below as a large river that flows by the farm. Both cats shudder at the thought, thoroughly done with the duo of water and gravity. Shadow speaks with that weird telepathy all these animals seem to have that is never addressed. That's strange. I didn't sense a waterfall here before. You're losing your touch, old-timer. Sassy begins to get catty, but stops when her dark ears perk at the noise behind them. The animals turn to face a kind-looking man that the Himalayan cat instantly seems to recognize. It's you! You're that human who found me after I fell into the river. That's right, the man replies. Whoa, wait a sec! Chance barks and hops in surprise. That guy just heard what you said, Sassy. Humans can't do that. What's a human? Milo asks, turning to his pug friend. Well, it's probably that strange two-legged animal that's talking to us. It appears the other cat has met it before. The hermit shakes his head. No, little flat-faced one. If I was a human, I wouldn't be able to understand you. I'm a spirit of dreams. The hermit then transformed into an owl very familiar to Milo. Oh, you're that weird owl that told me about the dreaming nest.
Ah, the dreaming nest.
It is at this point that Shadow steps forward. And what is your name, stranger? The owl turns its head to face the retriever. You can call me Joe. The owl looks at the river that has been slowly rising as they spoke. Joe Flood. Yes, let's go with that for now. I've helped the both of you in the past, and I can help again, but I'll need some help first. The dream world has become polluted with nightmares and must be remade. Each group must build an ark and gather 2 of every animal you can find. I will rid you of the humans that chase you in the real world if you do this for me. Now go. You're only limited by logic.
My only weakness, logic.
I've been saying for years now.
Yeah.
Lightning flashes and thunder booms simultaneously, and Joe Flood is gone. The animals exchange looks in silence for several long seconds before Chance's question, so wait, are we dreaming right now? Sassy sighs, this is going to be a long dream. Welcome to my fever dream of a lightning round.
What the fuck is happening?
Animals are a lot smarter than humans have given them credit for, so let's see your pets accomplish these tasks. What kind of ark will your animals build, and how will they go about it? Remember, you're dreaming, and you're animals. The world is your squeaky toy.
What?
How will your pets go about convincing all the animals they can find to get on their raft? What about the dangerous animals like bears and mountain lions? What about prey animals that don't trust you, like rabbits and birds? Milo and Otis went first for the openers, so Homeward Bound will go first in the lightning round. Oh, it's okay. The lightning won't hurt you inside. Come on out. It's time to build a boat.
All right, so we have to build an ark.
The thing that they're going to end up building their ark out of is the substance of the world that is the best at floating, and that is, of course, tennis balls. And the way that they're going to do that is they're going to gather together all of the animals in the world, and Shadow's going to be up on top of a hill. He's going to have, maybe a robe on. He's going to be dressed like Noah, inspiring everybody and telling them about the coming flood. And then he's going to say, all of you have a mission. We have to build an ark large enough to hold all the animals in the world, and we do that we're using tennis balls. Go get every tennis ball in the world. Now, all of you, my disciples, fetch!
In terms of recruiting the animals, we are going to have Chance. He's going to get all the lady animals because he's confirmed dog sexy. And he's just got a good way.
Jesus. I had just forgotten about that.
I know. It's in the movie a lot. I don't like it either, but it's in the movie. Yeah. He's going to make some friends. And then anybody who thinks that Chance is dumb or doesn't like him.
They're too good for him.
They're going to be perfect for Sassy's mode of recruitment, which is going to be that she's going to just kind of walk on by she doesn't even need anybody to be on the side. She's going to be like, that's cool. We don't need anybody. I mean, if you want to drown, that's fine. And then all the animals are going to join up because they want to be part of Sassy's ark.
And she's going to be like, no, you shouldn't be in the ark. And they're like, please, let's be in the ark. And she's like, all right, fine, you can be on the ark.
Yeah,
that's so dumb. in the fucking movie, dude, she was gonna get the food anyway. She didn't have to pretend.
I know, right? She just likes to tell herself that.
That's not a method. That's just making something take longer.
Do you have any points about how they would convince dangerous animals or prey animals?
We just split them into different categories: sexy animals and animals that. No, just kidding.
If we need some reassurance for safety for the prey animals, then Shadow can come back in and be very reassuring like he was for the kid in the fire and just be his adorable self and they won't be scared anymore.
Right. Sassy rescues a cat from that same fire, so she's good at dealing with the little tiny animals and calming them down and stuff, and Chance, as we established, he could probably intimidate the predators because he's just so dense. He's just pure muscle.
I just got this amazing mental image of Shadow and Sassy trying to negotiate with animals reasonably. But then in the back, Chance just pushes a seesaw in and gives a meaningful, threatening glare.
It, with his nose.
Yeah.
I love hearing people's weird dreams. It's great. Now, it's your turn, Milotis. Your kittens and puppies are depending on you.
So we see what vehicle of choice Milo and Otis used to navigate stormy waters, which is, of course, a box.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So their ark is going to be a series of boxes all lashed together. Very easy to make.
Yeah. Flexible enough to withstand hardship. The boxes can, contort and go into different directions.
Canonically bear-proof.
Yeah, bear-proof, waterfall-proof, pretty much everything-proof, to be honest. You would think that box would fall apart in that river, but it just doesn't.
And, there's predators, there's prey. They kind of have, different motivations and different ways of seeing the world. Hey, Miles, what do predators and prey both love equally?
Oh, they love fucking.
Yeah, they do.
What's going on in this fucking
Yeah, they love fucking. And you know what? Milo and Otis have experience fucking.
Oh, jeez.
All right?
I'm afraid. Well, and I don't want to know where this is going.
Lure the other animals onto the ark with the promise of sex.
See, each pair of animals gets their own box.
Yeah.
And it's just
fucking
predator
privacy.
Or prey, you don't have to worry about it. Let's get you out of this rain. And into a box.
And into my box. Yeah, and also, every box is going to get its own dream nest, which doubles as a love nest, of course.
How many dreams deep are we?
The dream. Well, that's the thing.
Pupception.
The dream nest. All the dream nests are lined with peyote.
Yeah, that's actually what the dream nests are.
God,
Yeah.
now you're making these animals high?
Yeah. How do you get a lot of people to follow you, Kit? Fucking hedonism.
I shouldn't have trusted you all with a sweet animal podcast.
No, you should not.
Yeah, we did not do this well.
Well, forget your arc. I'm going to make a better arc with drugs and fuck it.
I mean, I don't know what's in your dreams, Claire.
Oh, God. Oh, is that it? Am I free?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and leave?
I think that's probably it for the podcast, frankly.
So for real, though,
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive that Milo and Otis takes place in a post-apocalyptic, post-human
It
setting.
has to.
The one evidence of humans that we find is that there's a bunch of fish that are hanging up on that, like, rack thing.
Yeah,
that
Miles
are,
argued that they did that.
Right. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty clear those are done by the human owners of that barn.
What human owners?
Yeah, there are no humans in the world.
That movie follows you through that cat's like whole life, and like at no point does a
Nope.
cow get milked. At no point is a pig slaughtered.
Nope.
I was busy crafting an argument that Milo and Otis were telepathic, whereas we know for a fact that the Homeward Bound pets are not telepathic because when Shadow is muzzled, he loses the
Yeah,
ability
he
to
can't.
speak.
They also have the bit in 2 with like the dog who has like the fleas and can't
Yeah.
speak properly when he's scratching
Yeah.
himself and stuff. And then weirdly, they also bark sometimes, and it's like not
It
words.
makes no sense.
The hanging of the fish is one thing. You would think that the biggest evidence for there actually being humans in Milo and Otis is the train that almost hits Milo.
Oh, yeah.
But in the original Japanese, the name of that train is Nippon Bearway, which suggests to me
Yeah,
that it is
The
run
bears
by
have
bears.
trains.
it's a bear train.
Bear train.
It is a bear train. So, yeah, I'm
So the humans have gone extinct because bears developed train technology.
I
That's
and
right.
with that technological
want
theory-
that railway to exist in Nexus City.
That's right.
I actually like Milo and Otis at the most when it has these like weird magical touches where it gets into like Sandman territory
Dude,
with
the
like
fucking
the
dream
stuff.
nest. The
It's
dreaming
really
nest.
cool.
I was like really thought I was on acid when watching that movie, and it was nothing at all like I remembered it from my childhood.
Right. That's the part where the Japanese weirdness is like
Yeah.
creeping into like the 80s kids movie. One of the weird issues with this one is there's so much vagueness in both of these movies, both in like the sort of world building and some of the weird logical leaps in that like it's very clear that Milo and Otis is just kind of like a bunch of not connected scenes, and they're trying their best to patch it over with voiceover to make it seem like it's a coherent story. And, you know, and then Homeward Bound has its logic issues as well. So, like,
Homeward Bound is a kid's blockbuster from 1993.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like when it has logic issues, they're like clearly not what was intended.
right.
Whereas
Yeah.
Milo and Otis is a bizarre fucking acid trip, like makes no sense.
It's like an art film, basically.
Yeah,
Or at least I've heard the original Japanese version is more akin to like a Terrence Malick movie. It's like not a kid's movie. It's just like a weird, trippy like thing. And then they tried to like make it into a kid's movie.
And, like,
Yeah,
Americanize it
and
as well.
Americanize it. And so it's just as weird as Homeward Bound and like clunky in a lot
it's
of
weirder.
places, but
Oh,
most of
weirder
the
and
time,
clunkier, I would say.
yeah. But then there's like these little bits that poke through. You're like, wait, what? Why are they on the surface of Venus now? Like, what
It's
is
just
this
like
place?
it's just
Like,
really interesting to watch, even though it's not good.
yeah.
Whereas like the Homeward Bound movies are technically better, but
Yes.
they're so cliched, they're kind of boring.
There were definitely a number of times when I was watching Homeward Bound where like I would be suddenly shaken out of it and just think, wait a minute, I'm just watching footage of a dog
Yeah.
Yes.
with Michael J. Fox just talking over
yeah.
it. Like,
I love-
that's what I'm watching.
I love to think about the voice actors like watching the footage and also having the lines, because there seems to be like no additional benefit to watching the footage of the,
Right.
of the
Right.
animals.
It's not like it matches up that well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're not like, oh, I have to time this because he like looks over there at this
Right,
time. Like
right,
it just,
right, yeah.
it like doesn't sync up.
The cast of the second one is nuts because, like,
Yeah.
in addition to Ted from Airplane as the dad, and Jill from Brazil is the mom.
As the most bland humans ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Just the stock generic straight off the floor model humans, no frills.
That second movie also has Sinbad.
Yeah.
And Carla Gugino.
Yeah.
And
Fucking
also,
Stephen Tobolowsky.
Yeah.
Right?
but also 3 like famous sports broadcasters.
Yeah.
Played the sports
as
broadcast
the dogs at the ballpark.
Yeah.
Like Al Michaels is in this movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. All of that put together, though, does not match the power of one Dudley Moore. It's like a whole voice cast, different voices for different characters. Why? We don't need that.
Yeah, no, no need.
Also, somebody needs to tell the people who made Milo and Otis about something called the Kuleshov effect. That's where you can have 2 pieces of footage, you show one, and then you show another one, and the viewer's mind puts something together that didn't actually happen in the footage. This is how you make animals in action scenes and not put them in danger. Like, you have Shadow running in one direction, you cut to a mountain lion running in the same direction, and it's implied they're being chased, and you don't have to kill cats to get your
Those charges were never actually proven, but they're definitely true.
Oh, they are 100% true.
You know that movie got approved by the Humane Society?
No.
Even though, yeah, they totally did. But there was no Humane Society rep actually there.
Yeah, they just gave somebody from the Humane Society a bag of Coke or something. You have to. But no, it's actually really funny. Like, the line at the end of Milo and Otis doesn't say there were no animals harmed in the making of this movie.
No.
It says all the animal actors were acting under supervisors that had the utmost like attention for their care or something like that. But it's phrased in a way it's like, but we're not saying that 15 cats didn't die while we were making
I think 27 was the number.
there is no known number. If people I've looked into it, people say like a number. It's like an urban legend. People don't actually know, but it's implied there were probably some cats that died.
Probably greater than 0.
Yeah.
Also, can I just say real quick, what the fuck is a second female pug with a French name doing out in a snowstorm?
Right?
How did she get here?
And what does their selection process look like that the first animal of their species they encounter, they're just like, yep, that's the one.
When you're in love, man.
At least Pongo was discerning when he was picking a mate. There's the whole scene where he's looking out the window and like, no, not that one. No, not that one.
Yeah, can we talk about Pongo, who's blatantly racist, by the way?
Blatantly racist
what?
against non-Dalmatians.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
he goes with the Dalmatian.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta keep the bloodlines pure, man.
Gosh.
Oh, no. Well, we had a good run, y'all. 118 matches.
By that logic, the only one of these characters who's not racist is Chance.
That's true.
Because he's the only one we see get with a different species.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yes, but if we're employing the standard logic of what we've been using in this movie, which is if a thing does not happen, then it could never happen.
I mean, look, we both went back and forth on that one, so I think
we
it pretty
did.
much evened out.
That's not just you guys.
I'm not saying that. I was saying the logic employed in this match.
You don't have a leg to stand on in terms of the logic employed in this match.
I do, but it's broken.
Yes, I got 3
has
more.
no
I got
place
3
here.
more still. Still climb out of muddy pits.
It's alright, if you knew how to use a rope, basic tool technology.
I didn't want to say it in rebuttal, so I don't think there are any ropes in that train yard.
I will say, had there been a seesaw at the bottom of that pit, I have no doubt that situation would
There
have
were
been
like
immediately
broken
solved.
planks down there. Why didn't Chance vault him out?
Right? That's probably what happened in the cutaway.
Yeah, we don't actually see how they got out, so we have to
no.
assume.
We can't say.
Why didn't they show that? That would have been a great way to end that movie.
It is pretty crazy that they don't actually show or mention like how he got out of the hole, isn't it?
Also, notice he shows up like totally sparkling clean at the end.
Yeah,
He's like,
He shows up looking like Legolas at the end of any scene of Lord of the Rings, just like perfectly immaculate.
I just like the idea that like they got out and they were going home and they were like, he like stopped at like a car wash.
Oh yeah,
He didn't look pretty.
I can't present myself to Peter like this. Yeah,
It's like a dog is a boy's best friend
Yes.
and he must look his best.
cleanliness is next to dogliness.
Don't worry, all the animals were just dreaming. Everyone is safe. Everyone, you can just imagine all the puppies into kitties. They're doing their little cute, like, leg twitchy thing because they're all dreaming and they're all safe. No, Corella's not making any coats, but I do have to name a winner. And I guess that winner will be, like, in the fiction, who got there first? But for realsies, oh my god, y'all. I was in that bedroom for so long trying to figure it out because I'm going to claim it. This is harder for me than Aquaman versus Namor.
Wow.
This is literally the hardest match I've had to call.
Wow.
There was a lot of similarities between your teams, and then there was a lot of things that were different, but like I couldn't count it against the other team because it just didn't happen. I'm going to go back and forth in my brain with this one forever, but I think I'm going to have to give it to Homeward Bound.
Oh, wow. Nice.
You're so wrong.
Nice.
You're so wrong.
I'm sorry. I was like, I have to choose, and I think the flexibility of Homeward Bound, like they do a lot of extra stuff that's gonna help them. It's not like Milo and Otis had like negative points or anything. It's just, that's what got me. I know. It sucks being the judge. We all think we're all wrong. That's what this show comes down to.
We all think we're all wrong?
Tom, Bo, good thanks. Over to Twitter. Thank you to Dun No Kittery, Jeff Rick Present, Rafael Medina, Sean Boyd, Matias Totimes, Vladimir Duran, Jake the Yes I Do These Just to Mess with Kit, Robert Ramsey.
I saw that he had changed that on Twitter, and I was so looking forward to you mentioning it for the first time.
Robert Ramsey, Meowingly, Cosplay Devotee, Andrew Young, David Capune, Hayden, Cam, Decade Fan, Vander Turner, Mike Booch, Florian, and Dark Cosplay Fiend. Over to Tumbles, thank you to G Prime, Meowingly, Ultra Anonymous Angel, the most anonymous angel, Secretly a Skeleton, Creepy David Bowie, Sid Rabbit Blog, Inc., The Cryptid, and Changing Shades. And on Facebook, thank you to Tom Grow, Jeffrey Ketchum, Matias Totimes again, Matias Totimes strikes back, Adam Mayo, and Daniel Kidder. And surprise, YouTube. Someone to thank on YouTube.
Huh.
Yeah, we
All
have
right.
a YouTube channel, remember guys? This person does. This person whose screen name is Mahatma Christ the Fourth.
Oh,
Wow.
The fourth.
The fourth.
What happened to the first
I need
three?
to catch up on my Mahatma Christ.
He assassinated the last three. It's that guy's title. They left us a lot of short but very sweet comments on our YouTube channel. So I'm just like,
cool.
thanks.
Thanks,
we don't
dude.
get a bunch of YouTube comments, except on the Tyranid Xenomorph Zerg one. Holy shit, you Warhammer 40k people are
Yeah,
just
dude.
insatiable.
That message thread on YouTube is popping off.
I need
and
to go
has
check
been
that out.
basically since we posted that match.
Wow.
Dude. So yes, thank you everyone who has friendly conversations on YouTube.
And thanks also to Joe Flood, the capricious, shape-shifting dream spirit that enjoys rescuing cats from various environmental challenges.
At least we finally got an answer to what was going on with that guy.
Yeah, really fills in a lot of the gaps in the Homeward Bound narrative, if you ask me. So Joe, of course, is a patron of ours over at Patreon. That's why he appeared in our storyline, as do all of our patrons eventually. So come join us.
And let me just say, I think it's less of a storyline and more of like a story kind of squiggle.
That's fair.
Thank you to Diamond J for suggesting this match.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely.
He is a fan of ours. He's been on the show before, and he suggested this one a while back. So we finally got around to it. I talked to him about it a couple days ago, and he was very excited. So hope he likes it.
Also, we do want to thank Brad, who is always a shining light, a very good dog, 13 out of 10, would advocate with or against again.
Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's very adorable match. Next week, we've got a new episode of Surprise Party.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. This is objective proof of self-sufficiency. This is objective proof of self-sufficiency. Damn it. Stuff for the peanut gallery. This is objective proof of self-sufficiency, which I don't have. Anyway.
Oh, you said it right that time, too.
I know. I'm going to say it wrong this time. Watch. Can I just say real quick how carefully I avoided jokes about no animals were harmed in the making of this film, so as not to upset you, Kit, and now you're out here making them.
I'm making careful jokes of that nature.
I mean, are you surprised that that's the aspect of the movie she fixated on the most when we were watching it?
Is this like how I can make Jewish jokes because I'm Jewish?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Claire, is it weird how many Sucker Punch vibes I was getting from the pound scene in the first Homeward Bound? Like, I was seriously seeing comparisons between, like, the fat dude and the cook. It was all there, man.
Yeah, that's... I just don't... You see, Miles, stop talking about Sucker Punch.
I mean, I can't. I don't know why I can't now. Like, now I can't stop.
We keep circling back to Sucker Punch. I don't